Have you been hearing the hype about red light therapy and are wondering, does it really live up to it? Well, today we are talking with Dr. Viv Chen to really dissect the science behind the red light, how it can help heal your body, and how to actually use it. But first of all, I want to say I am so grateful you're here. And I am so grateful I'm here. Welcome to the Gluten-Free You and Me podcast and YouTube, where we learn to navigate and simplify our lives together in this gluten-filled world. And as always, I am your host, Coral. This is season 2, episode 24, how to reduce inflammation and sleep better using red light therapy, with, of course, our favorite, Dr. Viv. Okay, let's just dive in with Dr. Viv. And I want to tell you how incredible she is. And today I was taking a shower and I'm like, dude, Dr. Viv is just the best. And I thought, I need everyone to know how incredible she is. Like, what is like, how would I describe her? And then I was thinking and I was like, oh my goodness, she's brilliance without the ego. That's what she is. She's brilliance without the ego. Like, honestly, she is so sweet, so down to earth. She has the medical background to back up what she's saying, what she's preaching, and all. So actually, I was going to read you her bio, but I'm going to let her tell you for herself who she is and why she's in this space and just her heart and all. So without any further ado, here's Dr. Viv. Dr. Viv, I'm so happy to have you on the show.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh my goodness. No, we have so much to talk about. But first, I just want to have you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you. And yeah, let's just go with that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you, Coral. You're amazing. I love your work as well. And it's so kind of you too to say that about me. For your listeners who don't know me, my name is Dr. Viv Chen. I am an MD who went to medical school in the UK. So I practiced for 15 years as a conventional medical doctor. Actually, I'm board certified in the UK in both family medicine and internal medicine. And I did a year in dermatology as well. And then 7 years ago, I moved to the Bay Area because of my husband, but also because during the 15 years of clinical practice, I burnt out. And I felt like I was just prescribing pills for these chronic health conditions that had root causes that I could help my patients address, but I couldn't in 10, 15-minute appointments. So when we moved to the Bay Area in America 7 years ago, I said, okay, I'm going to try doing something completely different, ditch my prescription bad and help people get to the root causes and see what happens. And in the last 7 years, I've helped so many people. I was one-on-one coaching some patients and clients, but then slowly transitioned to kind of education online because I was able to reach a lot more people. I mean, the information I'm sharing about environmental toxins, nutrition, diet, lifestyle, these are kind of the fundamental basics of health that I feel everybody really needs to know before they, get that prescription pad that, and I'm not anti-conventional medicine. I think there is a place and a time for it, but we need to address those root causes as well.
Oh my goodness.
That's kind of what I do now.
Yes. And that just you are my jam. You're an actual MD that has this is my total train of thought. This is what I teach and preach. It's like you do everything you can, with food, right? With what you're putting in your body, consuming every day, what you're putting on your body. And then, and go through just different techniques and different things that you can do to help yourself, functional ways. And then if needed, of course, there's a time and a place for medical medicine, right?
Yes.
But we could do so much before we go there.
100%.
I just love, honestly, your Instagram handle of plateful.health is it's amazing. It's a plateful of health, really, because it has such a wide variety of ways to help you. And not to get overwhelmed, but like, oh, if you're struggling with this, try this. Like, what are you eating? Do you know that this is in your plastics? Like your story the other day for, the dishwasher and plastics. I mean, that's just real stuff that we need to be educated on. And I just thank you for your voice.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So, we actually met at Expo West last month in Los Angeles, in Anaheim. And that was like the biggest treat. I didn't know how, like, I don't know. It was just incredible to meet you. And like I said, your brilliance without an ego.
Thank you. But incredible to meet you too. It was, so lovely. And I think it was Carolyn's booth, right, that we met. And we have to thank her for it.
I know. I needed to, true story, my phone died. And I was like, you can't be at Expo West without a phone. And so I had to stay around Carlin at Just Ingredients. I had to stay at her booth for 30 minutes charging my phone. And so that's how we even so it was like, thank you, my phone died. And then thank you, Carlin. And then I got to meet you. So
Love it.
Okay. So one thing, like right after Expo West, you actually sent me something that has definitely changed our family's world. And that is the Lume Box. So I want you to kind of tell everyone what the Lume Box is and how you even came about with creating this.
Yeah, thank you so much. So this is the Lume Box for those of you who don't know. So for those of you listening, I'm holding a white box that emits light. Lume Box is a red light therapy device and it's portable, so you can take it with you anywhere. You can use it anywhere. There are lots and lots of red light therapy devices now on the market. I'm sure a lot of you have seen red light therapy devices, but there is a key difference between Lume Box and the rest, and that's the power. The irradiance matters, right? So a lot of these red light therapy devices on the market are not powerful enough, but maybe I'll back up a little bit because some people don't even know what red light therapy is, right? So is it helpful to maybe start there and then we can talk about why Lume Box?
Love it.
So red light therapy, interestingly enough, has been around for about 50 years. And when I first found out about it, I was shocked that I never learned about it at medical school, actually, because I was actively in medical school when, doctors and researchers are using red light therapy to treat many different conditions that in their papers published about it. I just didn't know about it. But it all started really with NASA. They were trialing different wavelengths of light to grow food in space. And they noticed that astronauts who were using red light to grow their plants, their injuries healed a lot faster than the other wavelengths. So they thought, hang on a minute, what is this? How come these astronauts were not, were healing so much faster with their injuries? So then they started to study red light and noticed that it had this whole host of other benefits. And that's really kind of the tipping point for when research really started on red light therapy. But essentially, red light is a very narrow band in light. So if you look at light, sunlight, it's white, right? Most people consider it as white light. But white light is made up of this whole spectrum of different colors of light from, green, blue, red, and that whole spectrum makes up white. But in sunlight, there's also UV, which is, considered damaging, right? So it can cause DNA damage. It can cause skin aging, skin cancer. So red is kind of the part of the spectrum that is beneficial, can penetrate skin without the damaging part, that's UV. So what we've done is kind of extracted this really helpful band of light and put it in a device. And when red light comes out of the machine or the device and it hits your skin, there's two wavelengths from your Lume Box. There's red, there's near-infrared. Red is really good for skin conditions, and near-infrared penetrates deeper, so it can target, deeper tissues like your joints and muscles. And when it hits the cells, this light is absorbed by something called the mitochondria. So if you think back to your kind of high school biology days, mitochondria is the powerhouse inside all of our cells. So almost all of our cells have mitochondria, apart from red blood cells. And the mitochondria produces energy for that cell to work. So mitochondria turns what we eat, what we drink into energy, which then the cell uses to do its work. Like in the brain, the cell uses energy, what we call ATP, to think, to memorize, to organize things. In the liver, liver cell uses energy to detoxify, to help us with blood sugar balance. And so when the red light and the near-infrared light hits that cell, the mitochondria now is activated, absorbs the light, is activated, and produces more energy. And that's one of the ways red light therapy works. So think of it as kind of like a boost to your cell. So whatever that cell does, it now has got a lift and a boost in what it can do. So that's why when you first hear about red light therapy, it almost sounds like snake oil because it can do so many things. And when I first heard about it, I thought it was snake oil because it can do so many things. But when you look at the studies, there are 2,000 published studies on PubMed about red light therapy, and it ranges anything from skin to joint health to pain relief to, cognitive health to so many different things. And it's because it's targeting that very kind of root of many conditions, right? It's targeting energy. And when a cell has more energy, it can work better.
Oh my goodness. You broke that down so beautifully. And I remember studying about mitochondria. I mean, that's like probably out of all the science and biology, is like the mitochondria were like, yes, the powerhouse. And so when you talk about that and you're like, yes, we all need that boost. And I just want to like jump in right here and tell you like my experience. And I know you've heard this and a few listening have, but what the Lume Box has done for my son. So like, I think like sometimes it's hard to get a clear measurable, like, oh yeah, my knee feels better with my arthritis or, and that's happened with me. Like it's gotten rid of migraines like crazy, but it's kind of subjective, like where you're like, okay, but did it really? Like, oh, is it all in your head? Like, you can just justify all those things, but it has, I promise. But my son, he is like the craziest sleeper of life. Like he is like up and he is everywhere all the time. Like he sleep talks, sleep walks. Like you never know what's going to happen with this guy. Like when he goes sleeps at his cousin's house, they're like, he's not sleeping in my room because he scares me. And
poor him and you.
Yeah. But like he wakes up and he's kind of like foggy. Like he's not like fully coherent. And he's like, Mom, I don't know. I can't focus. And I'm like, I know. And he doesn't have any other signs of like an ADHD or anything like that, but or ADD, but like, he just seems like he's kind of foggy. And so he got a watch a few months ago and he's tracking his sleep and he's like, Mom, like he'll go to bed and he's supposed to be asleep for like 10 hours, but he'll look at his watch and he'll be like, Mom, it was only 4 hours last night of deep, like REM sleep. And I'm like, shoot, son, like, I don't know what to do for him. Like, I know I'm the mom, but like, I don't know. I'm like, what are you eating at night? Like, are you having any sugars close to bedtime? Like, I mean, we're trying to do all these things. And so when Dr. Viv, you sent me this Lume Box, a couple days I had it and I'm putting on different things. I'm like, wow, this is like really working. And then I thought, Gavin, why don't you try it on the back of your neck? Like, I'm not sure. Like, I just watched some YouTube videos and I think this is a thing. Just try it. So he tries it. And then he comes to me the next morning. He looks at his watch, connects it to his phone, and he's like, Mom, look. And he shows me his phone. And he's like, I got 10 hours of deep REM sleep last night. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? And like, this was huge. Like the boy and he's like, I feel so energized. Like, I feel like I slept. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay, maybe it was a fluke. So then I was like, I'm not going to talk about it yet. Like, I'm not going to say anything because what if it was just like crazy? Like he just got good sleep that night. So then we started doing it every single night. And it was 10 days of it. And one day he didn't do it before he went to sleep. And then I'm kind of glad he didn't, but he totally forgot. Because then we saw the measurable once again. So he was averaging 7 to 10 hours of sleep a night with the Lume Box, depending on like, our schedule and everything. But then when he didn't use the Lume Box that one night. He only got like 4 hours and a quarter, like 4.25 hours of sleep. And it was just like, okay, son, this is what you do. And so I am like, ever since then, I was like, Dr. Viv, you got to come on my podcast. Like, this is crazy. Like, I don't even know how to explain this. So I'm so glad that you're here to help. And I love that you say that, like, whatever that cell's function is to do, it elevates it. So it's like, it's going to help in so many different ways. And so I'm so glad you're here to educate us on the why and the science behind it.
Yes. And you know what? Can I just say something?
Yes.
You kind of have just described how we usually conduct tests or diagnoses by observing. For example, food, a lot of your audience are gluten-free, right? I know, yes. Or have food allergies. There is no good 100% way to diagnose food intolerances and food allergies, right? It's food diaries. And what do? We remove and we introduce, right? We remove and reintroduce. And we do it a couple of times. And then we say, okay, it's repeatable. Now I know, I'm almost certain you have an intolerance or allergy to this food. And that's kind of what you did with your son, because you got a result and you didn't just be like, hey, everybody, this is the result, right? Because that would be a little bit, unreliable.
Right.
You waited and you saw, oh, wow, this is repeatable, right? And then you removed it and said, what happens now? And you saw a decline. So that is, I love how you did that experiment, because that's exactly what I would do too. And thank you so much for sharing that with me, because it really means the world to me when, Lume Box is out there helping people.
No, I am just so grateful. And now we've had it for over a month. And I mean, that's just proven time and time again. And I don't think that it's going to be a cure-all for everyone. Right. Because there's so many different things. And maybe it is food. Maybe there could be so many factors. But right. For Gavin, he's pretty dialed in with his health just because that's what we live and do. And we've done the elimination protocol and the AIP and all of that. So he's pretty dialed in with his body. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, this wouldn't happen to every single person to have these results, but it surely has happened with us. And I am so grateful.
Oh, yes. And you're right about that, because everybody's different, right? And everybody always wants like that one magic solution, and health just doesn't work like that. It's a combination of so many different things, and everybody's different. Everybody responds to sunlight differently, right? You and I are going to tan very differently in the sun, and that's how we will respond to red light therapy as well. And what you said earlier about elevating the cell and the mitochondria, why does that matter and why is this so important is because our mitochondria is really a threat from modern day living. If you 200 years ago, no, we don't need red light therapy in a device to help us because we're out in the sun, we're outdoors, we're in nature. We don't have the 84,000 chemicals lurking around in our everyday products, in our food, in our water, in our air. All of those environmental toxins damage our mitochondria. Our diet, stress, lack of sleep, lack of movement, all of these things are chipping away at our mitochondria. And it's kind of like, it's a cumulative effect and it builds up. So studies have shown that with each decade, we lose about 10% of our mitochondria reserve of mitochondrial function. So, in your 20s and 30s, you can get away with a lot, right? You can eat the food that that would really affect us now. Like I'm 46, if I drink alcohol, it affects me a lot. I can feel it a lot more than when I was in my 20s. If I have one night of bad sleep, I really feel it. Whereas in my 20s and 30s, we have that mitochondrial reserve to help us bounce back. Now in my 40s, I've lost 40% of my mitochondrial function. I need that boost.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, yeah, I feel it. I'm 41 and I'm like, oh, dang, when I stay up late and wake up early, I'm like, I am toast. Like, I am like, I cannot hang. I feel like I pulled an all-nighter and I got 4 hours, but still,
Right.
Yeah, no, that's so, so good. I love that you're bringing up like the actual science behind it. Cause to me, I'm like, I don't know, this is a magical box. Like, believe me, it's worked on us on so many different levels. And honestly, I was thinking about it, and I think I'll probably do a post on like like from head to toe of like what it's benefited me. Like I know it can benefit a lot of different things, but like literally, I'm like doing it in sections, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is gonna help this. Oh, this is gonna help this, and it's just so fun.
I
So
love that.
can you do us a favor? Can you tell us about the settings? Because I've been getting a lot of questions because there are two settings on here. So maybe you can break it down and explain the purpose of each setting. I know you did a little bit, but let's dive into it a little bit deeper.
Yes, I love that. And by the way, what I mentioned this earlier, but what sets Lume Box apart is the power, the irradiance. It's very powerful. And I designed it that way because then you can adjust the irradiance for different parts of your body. So you mentioned you use it for different parts of the body. Well, different parts of the body and different kind of benefits require very different energy levels, right? Very different power levels. So for example, for your skin, because it's on the surface and also our skin just doesn't need that much energy, you can get away with very little energy and still see a benefit. And because Lume Box is so helpful, I usually advise everybody, and this is in our Kickstarter guide, by the way, to place it away from the face. So you want a distance because the distance dilutes the strong power, the strong irradiance, right? You don't want it right close up here because that will be too much power for your face. But where you really need a lot of power is when you want that light to penetrate. So when you want the light to penetrate, for example, down to a joint, like if my shoulder's hurting or if I did something to my muscles, you want a powerful device because you need that light to penetrate down. And so now you want it closer to your body. So there are two kind of two variables, the wavelength and the distance. And then I'll add in a third, which is timing. So when you were thinking about the different modes, so we have, so here you can see it's red and near-infrared is combined mode, right? What I call combined. So combined has both red and near-infrared from, can I show this? Yeah. So from each of these bulbs, you have two wavelengths coming out through each of those bulbs. So that in itself is quite unique because a lot of the portable ones on the market, you'll see this, it skips. So it's red, near-infrared, red, near-infrared. Like, so not every single bulb emits both wavelengths. And that's important because now you're getting more coverage, right? When every single bulb is emitting. I tend to just say if you're confused and you don't know which wavelength to use, just use both because you're covering both bases, right? You're getting both red and near-infrared. And the individual wavelengths is slightly lower. The power, the irradiance slightly lower when you're in combined mode. But that doesn't really matter because if you just use it for a little bit longer, you're going to get to that power anyway, right? Because
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so if you're using it for your face and you have it a far distance apart and you want to use both, is that okay on your face? Or do you really recommend
That's
going
a great
light?
question. Yeah, that's a great question. So most of the studies that is looking at red light therapy and skin show red is the most beneficial wavelength for things like collagen. So if you want to kind of work on, supporting collagen production, minimizing the appearance of wrinkles, blemishes and scars and things like that, red is actually probably the most studied wavelength. But there are also studies showing near-infrared. Now, the reason why in my Kickstarter guide I recommend to use just red by itself on your face is because some people get, flushing, they get red in the face sometimes, and that's usually because of heat. And near-infrared wavelength can emit heat. So if you put your Lume Box in near-infrared mode and close to your body, you're going to feel after a while that it gets hot, right? And for purposes of skin, you don't really want that because you don't want the flushing effect, right? To like do red light therapy and then your face is bright red. I mean, it's unlikely to do that with Lume Box for most people. But, there's always like I said earlier, everybody's different, right? So there's going to be a small population of people who do get flushing. So that's why in the Kickstarter guide, I say red for the face, ideally. But, sometimes I do use combined mode as well, because there are a small amount of studies that show near-infrared could be good for skin. But if you're somebody who tends to get hot, if you have redness on your skin, you don't want that redness, then skip the near-infrared.
Okay, that's so good to understand. And yes, I read through everything and I'm still like, wait, but remind me that again.
I know. It's a lot to get your head around, right?
Yes, literally. Okay, so, and then I'm also using it on my hair. And honestly, I mean, this is a hard measurable, right? It's a hard measurable because like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to really measure how this works on my hair. But what do you recommend for your hair growth? Would you be the red or would it be?
So that's a great question, right? So unlike your skin where you need very little energy, your scalp for hair growth, you do need a lot of energy.
Okay.
All right. So this is why, different parts of the body needs different kind of ways of using it. And you might have seen those helmets being sold for hair loss. Mm-hmm. So those are good for like diffuse, like what I mean by that is like hair loss everywhere, right? And you want to target the entire scalp at the same time. And you need a shape like that. Otherwise, you'd be kind of doing Lume Box like for an hour just to cover your entire head. But if your hair loss is kind of regional, like a small section, it's, you can easily target with your Lume Box. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing is look for a device that has enough irradiance. The Lume Box does. Not all devices on the market does. But those helmets, a lot of them actually have laser. So laser kind of is like the strongest irradiance of red light. And what you'll notice if you have a helmet is with laser is that when you take it off, it automatically shuts off. And that's a protective mechanism because the strong laser should not be shining everywhere, like, and shining at people randomly, because you really need to protect your eye when you have laser. LEDs are a little bit different because they're not as strong. So those helmets with lasers, they cost 1,000 plus, usually around 1,200, 1,500. But you can get LED helmets as well, and they're a little bit more affordable, kind of like between 500 to 1,000. But make sure you get one that's has high power.
Yeah, I'm waiting for you to come out with that. So I can trust it.
Yeah, the research on red light therapy and hair loss is very interesting. There's actually a lot of studies on one particular pattern of hair loss called androgenic alopecia. So that's male pattern hair loss. That's kind of hair loss due to the male hormone, androgen, or testosterone, most people know it as. It can affect both men and women, even though it's called androgenic or male pattern. So in male, you see the receding hairline and then the patch here at the top, right? And in women, you also get thinning kind of in the temples first, and it goes up. So that's a very particular type of hair loss that's due to hormones fluctuations. And red light therapy seems to help that particular type more than the other type. So, for example, if your hair loss is because you're deficient in iron, I am not, I'm not confident that red light therapy alone is going to help you. You need to address that root cause, right? Aware about root causes. So, I just don't like to be flippant when it comes to giving recommendations as well, because I feel like you have to be responsible in telling people what can help them, what won't help them. And with hair loss, I always say, please make sure you get to the root cause and fix that first. And if it is because of androgenic, then red light therapy could be worth a try.
Okay, I love that. I have so many questions for you. I'm like, you can do this in 2 slides, but maybe we'll try to get it all together right here.
Yeah.
But okay, so you talked about the timing of it and how long the duration you should keep it on. So I know it has a little beep at 5 minutes or at 6 minutes. Is it
6 minutes?
6 minutes and then at 12 and then it turns off?
Yes.
So what is there a thing of like too much, or how do we know how long to do?
Yeah, I love the question. So I put that beep in because the one indication where you don't want too much is your skin, right? So a lot of people buy Lume Box for skin. They want to build collagen. They want to minimize wrinkles. So that's the one indication where you kind of want to stop at around the 6 minute mark. Although I do have a lot of customers who tell me, no, I need it at full on 12 minutes to see a benefit. So again, there's this this bell-shaped curve of what most people benefit from. And then there's the outliers. Some people still find 5 minutes too much. And some people say, no, 12 minutes. So, but
how do you know if it's too much?
Right. Okay. That's a great question. So if your skin becomes dry, right, and red, you probably got too much. But if you don't see that, then you're probably okay. So once you stopped using it for that long, it kind of goes back to normal again. So it's not like a permanent damage, right? Which you can get with lasers, by the way. That's why lasers are usually not recommended for at-home use, apart from those helmets. But if you use an LED-based device that's not, at the power of the laser, if you've got too much, just stop for a week, and usually your skin goes back to normal again. But what you'll see is dryness mainly, and then a little bit of redness. It's kind of similar to, I don't know if you use retinol. So if you use a very strong retinol, you see like peeling, redness, and dryness. That's kind of similar to what you might see if you've got too much.
And you were saying with the settings. So if you're getting that, then just do the red light. Don't make sure that you're not doing the
don't use. Yeah. I think if you have redness, definitely don't use near-infrared on your skin. Only use red, because then your skin won't heat up. And also, I want to emphasize that with LED devices, it really is quite hard to get too much, right? If you're doing like 3 rounds on one area of your body, yeah, sure, you might start to get too much. And what happens when you get too much? You just don't see as much of the benefit. But it's not like you're going to do, it's unlikely that you'll do permanent damage. I'm not going to say you won't, because I know like everybody's different again, but it's very unlikely. So even with the huge big panels, right, like people get, those emit a lot of light all over your entire body, right? So if you kind of overdo that, you're more likely to kind of what we call overdose. But even when you overdose there, what are some of the side effects that we see reported? Headache, feeling tired. So what I think this is a really good way to think about it, right? Think of red light therapy a little bit similar to exercise. You want that optimal amount. You want to exercise, but not too much, right? What happens when you exercise too much? You get a little bit sore. You need to recover, so you need to rest your body. And then next time, okay, don't do that much. Again, don't run for an hour, run for half an hour. It's a little bit like that, right? So when you get too much red light, you kind of don't get the benefits as much. And you might go to that point where you're a little bit tired, you're fatigued, and you're like, I thought I was supposed to get more energy from this thing. Oh, I may have done too much. Let me reduce the amount and start and see what happens there.
I love that. I mean, that's similar with what we do with reintroducing foods or different, it's just like you use your common sense. You see how you check in with you. Only you can decide that. And what helps one person is different from another, and you're going to have different results, of course, because our bodies respond differently. But when we're helping those mitochondria, like this is so many great benefits with that. Okay.
Yeah, I love that, because what the commonest question I get?
Yeah.
How far should I put this, and how long should I put it on my body? And I'm like, I cannot answer that for you. And that's why I put a general guideline for everybody that suits like 90% of people.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you're in the 10%, right? You can tell what the benefit you're seeing, right? And then you can judge whether to increase or decrease.
I love that. Okay, so then that leads exactly like is it safe, or people are putting it directly on their skin? I'm just going to say that. Like, do you see any red flags with that or anything?
Right. So that goes back to the 90-10% again.
Okay.
So as a company, we have to, because as I mentioned, near infrared emits heat, right? So for some people, the near infrared directly on their skin is going to be too hot, and they'll see like red marks or something like that for some people. And then for others, they're like, I don't see anything. I don't even think it's hot. Yeah. So there's such a big variation. But as a company, we have to protect people who may, experience the redness and the too much heat, right? So in our manual, we actually say, no, you should not put it directly on your skin, because how do I know who's going to be using this thing? I'm going to assume everyone is going to react because I don't know who. Right. Now, some people get it and they're like, oh, I'm not supposed to touch it. I'm not supposed to use the device on my skin. And they follow it for a week and they're like, I can barely feel this thing. It's not even hot. So they move it closer to their skin, closer and closer. And then, finally it's touching their skin. They're like, I'm fine. Like, I don't see any problem with it. So they start to use it that way. And that's down to the individual, right? So you're going to see people do that, and that's because they can tolerate it. But then there will be a very small minority out there who cannot.
Okay. You answered that beautifully. And I think all of us can use our own conscious
judgment.
Efforts.
Yeah. If you feel hot, you're going to move it away, right? Hopefully there's common sense there. Right. But we do put that caveat in just to protect everybody.
Okay. Another thing, goggles. Big question on everyone. Are goggles absolutely necessary, or is this also a 90-10 thing?
Yeah. So again, there's nuance there. And a lot of people are now confused because there's big podcasters talking about the study that just came out from where I went to medical school, UCL in London, where they found red light therapy to be beneficial for eye health. Now, I want to caveat that because that study was only done on 12 people, very small study. Doctors never make recommendations on one study based on 12 people. So, you should not start directly looking at your red light based on that one study. And the second thing is the irradiance they use is super low. So it's a very, very weak light compared to Lume Box, which is about 10 times the power of what they used in that study. So in that study, they shone the light directly into people's eyes, and then found that there's an improvement in their eyesight. But you can't really, we can't extrapolate that to all red light devices yet, I think. So I personally provide goggles for our customers because near infrared light, when you have chronic exposure, right, just like UV, if you have chronic exposure to UV, there is a slight increased risk of cataracts developing, and that's over years and years. Okay, so you're not going to go out to the sun, get a little bit of UV, and tomorrow develop cataracts. Same as near infrared. That's not going to happen. But studies do show, chronic exposure to near infrared may increase. So I provide goggles which block out the near infrared, so that if you're shining it directly at your face, so what I talk about in the Kickstarter guide is that it's called a beam window. So the beam window is the light that travels, right? So if your eyes are within that beam window, you should ideally be wearing goggles until we know more. And again, I'm being cautious because I don't like to tell people things that's not science-based until we have good scientific data. So maybe like in say 5 years time, we'll be like, no, don't forget your goggles, right? You can do whatever you want, but until we know. And right now, for example, lasers, for sure, 100% you need to protect your eyes. There's no question about that. We just don't know whether powerful LED devices need it. We don't know. So I just want to be
perfect.
you're careful. But if your Lume Box is not if your eyes are not in the beam windows, for example, if I'm using on my back, on my knees, somewhere where like the light's not directly coming to my eye, I don't wear my goggles.
Gotcha. Okay. That was perfect. That was perfect. Okay. We have like so many messages from Instagram. I'm just going to pull like 2 or 3 to end off, because I know we're going, sure. But I love the questions that dripped in. Okay. So does putting the Lume Box on my stomach or like, not even directly on, but whatever, improve my microbiome?
Oh, I love that. So there was a study that showed in people with Parkinson's that when they use red light therapy on just the stomach, it led to an improvement in their symptoms. So they didn't even shine a light on their head, just on the stomach. Wow. And they analyzed the stool. This is a very small study, and they found a change in microbiome. So this is a preliminary study. And again, I don't make recommendations or draw conclusions from that, but I found that very, very interesting. And, I think down the line, we may find other studies that help this, but we have a lot of customers who tell us they use Lume Box for, tummy upsets when they travel and things like that. Bloating, gas, it helps them.
Menstrual cramps, right?
Oh, menstrual cramp. Yeah, there's actually a study for that. But it's just super fascinating, but watch this space.
I love that. Okay, next one, teen acne. Is it safe for teens? Or is it the 90-10?
Yeah, so I have a teenager and she uses red light therapy. What I would say is there's 2 elements to acne, right? One is the bacteria causing acne, and one is that the pores are being blocked and it's causing inflammation and redness. See that redness and the pus and the swelling. Red light therapy can help with the inflammatory part, so the big, huge nodules and the cystic acne, and it could potentially help with, reducing scarring and things like that because it's helping with collagen. But if you want to tackle the bacteria part, that really has to be blue light. So red alone may not completely help with your acne, but it really can help reduce the redness and, the inflammatory part of acne, which is a huge part, by the way. Yeah. I'm personally not a fan of blue light, I have to say, just because I've seen a couple of studies that show blue light can actually age your skin. So like if I'm shining blue light on these teenagers and my aging their skin, like they can't come back to me in their 40s and say, hey, you didn't help me. You helped my acne, but now I've got wrinkles. So I'd rather use, other means to help with the bacteria part, like there's topical antibiotics and other methods to do that. And then just use the red part to tackle the inflammation.
Oh, so good. This is like money. Everything you're saying, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is big. Okay. So one of my very favorite questions was, how does it work with cellulite, and does it?
Oh, okay. So I don't want to overblow the research here as well. There are studies that show that it can help, but the caveat is if you're using LEDs, you have to do some exercise with it. So the one study that we shared, the participants were kind of on the treadmill for 20 minutes and using red light therapy at the same time. And then they showed an improvement. Now, there's another study where the participants didn't exercise, but they used laser and LED. So lasers are a lot stronger and can penetrate down a lot. It will cause fat kind of burn better, but that's not available commercially. Like you can't have that in your home. So you'd have to go to like a doctor or something like that to get that done. I've personally not experienced it, so I can't speak from myself, but those 2 studies we shared, they're very interesting.
That is interesting. Well, I could be a good testimonial for that one. You better believe I'm putting it on my glutes, my legs. I'm like, let's go.
Here's a clear measure. What kind of exercise do you do, Coral?
I lift. I lift and I do small cardio just because of my joints. I can't do too much high or anything like that. High impact I can't do. But yeah, I
so like anything where you're kind of like exercising your legs. I'm assuming it's on your legs.
Yes. Yeah.
So you want to be exercising and then put the Lume Box kind of shining in both modes, red and neon-infrared.
Okay.
Wherever you're.
And is there a certain time, like right after I work out, is that the most effective or does it matter?
The study actually did it during. So yeah, but I think the idea is that, when you're exercising, you're causing changes in those fat cells, right? You're pulling energy. And then that if you're shining the red light at the same time, that can actually, again, make that cell elevated and work better. I don't know whether before and after could do as well. I mean, we definitely know that before and after can help you lift heavier and do more reps. So it can help with muscle gains and exercise performance. But the cellulite piece, I don't know yet.
Hey, well, I'll be the guinea pig. I'll take one for the team.
Let me know. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, Dr. Viv. Well, I am just so happy to have you on today asking you all of these crazy questions. And again, there's so many more. Maybe we'll have to do an Instagram live or something like that to hit home with everybody else's questions because they were good ones. But I just want to thank you. And maybe if you have any closing words and where people can find you.
Oh, great. Thank you. So my Instagram account handle is at plateful.health. So that's plateful.health. I have a website too, www.platefulhealth.com, where I have a lot of blogs. I have an email list too. So if you prefer written form content, come join us over there. But I also post on Instagram as well.
I know. And you are so fun. You are so fun at Instagram. And thank you. But Dr. Viv has offered all of my friends and family a code for this Lume Box that is steep. It's the biggest code that I have from anyone. And I feel like this just shows you that goes back to how your subtitle, your mojo is you're brilliant without the ego because you really want to help people and you could feel that from you. And I'm just so grateful. So I have the code in the link. I'll put it in the show notes.
Yes, I would love to encourage everybody to use the link just because it will make sure that, it's tracking properly. So codes sometimes don't track for some people. So just make sure everybody, please use Coral's link in the show notes.
Good. Thank you. Yes. And it's a steep discount. And honestly, it has been so amazing for our family. And I literally, like I said, I want to use it from head to toe in different ways and show you guys how it's benefited me, how it's benefited my kids. We deal with multiple autoimmune diseases. We deal with insomnia. We're dealing with a lot of things here. And I am just so grateful to find natural resources that can help us heal our own body without taking extra chemicals or drugs or anything. So Dr. Viv, thank you for being the spokeswoman and the mouthpiece for so many of us. And I'm just so honored to have you on my show today.
Oh, thank you so much, Coral. It's been a pleasure.
Oh my goodness. Isn't she incredible? She really lives up to her hype and all of that. And she doesn't give herself hype. We all give it for her because she is just really brilliance without an ego. She is so awesome. I'm just so grateful that she took the time to educate us today and that you can feel confident when you do use your red light therapy or your Lume Box or you're going to order one or that you can be confident in how to use it, what to use it for, things to look out for in that safe zone for you specifically. And honestly, the benefits are endless. And I am just pumped that we get to learn more about this and have be more of a natural, holistic way. That's one of my favorite things about Dr. Viv is she first turns to what are we ingesting? What are we doing for our bodies? How are we helping fuel our bodies? All of that. And I'll be sharing my journey. So follow along on Instagram. the different ways that we're using the Lume Box in our home, how it's healing, how it heals like our cuts and scrapes and everything. So again, in the show notes, you will see the discount code, which is so steep, so generous. Dr. Viv wants us to have it in our homes to help us. And so I get emotional when people are so like caring and sincere. And especially when like they're the medical doctors, they're MDs. And when they like have a business and everything, but they run it with like their heart. And that's totally what she does. And I'm sure you could feel that today. And so I just want to thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here. Double check to make sure that you subscribe to this YouTube or this podcast so that you don't miss another episode, and go and have the best gluten-free day.